Greetings my dudes and dudettes, welcome to another video, and today we're going to do the last Coda weapon for a while, because I'm kind of growing tired of them. We've been doing mostly just Coda weapons for over a month now, so I would like to do something else for a little bit. However, before we move on to something else, I really wanted to try out the Coda Pox. These are secondary throwing weapons that require mastery rank 17, and they do pure toxin damage plus whatever valence bonus you have on them. The most interesting thing with these is that wherever they land, they leave behind a damaging area that has a radius of 2.8 meters and lingers for 4 seconds. And the stats you see either here or in your arsenal are actually for this toxic cloud, so 10% crit chance, 2.2 crit multi, 45% status, 35 toxin. They actually do 55 toxin damage on direct hit, though the crit multiplier is only 2x. And finally, since these are a Coda weapon, the only way to get them is by engaging with the Technosite Coda system, so you need to make your own infested boy band and then stab it a bunch to get the currency so that you can then buy the weapon from Eleanor. So let's give them a shot, shall we? Honestly, a pretty chunky upgrade here, mainly the status and the actual damage. It might seem like the crit is much better, but we have Enervate, so crit chance doesn't really matter unless it's really high. 10% is not enough to invest mods into it, but we can just run Enervate, so it doesn't really matter. Some basic mods here, Hornet Strike, let's get Diffusion as well, and I'm not 100% sure how Galvanized Shot works here. But it's not that much less status, so let's just run it. Almost forgot about Prime Target Cracker, we need that now that we're actually critting with the infested nipple tassels. I don't know about you, but I'm feeling Corrosive and Blast. One thing we could do, and we actually might, is flip the Valence into Electricity. That would give us baseline Corrosive. We need to go to Baby Blast with Unranked Scorch, but that's fine. I'll allow it, I think. It's still missing a lot of stuff, but it's definitely showing some promise. It's a pretty rough testing environment, to be honest, you know, level 190 steel path. That's kind of up there. Let's see how much assistance we can get from Lord Harold. Honestly, at this point, I think he's actually doing more damage than me. Feels pretty solid, honestly. It's a bit slow, which is kind of to be expected, especially with that magnetic damage in there, but I don't know. Now we can run fully ranked Scorch. Actually, not Scorch, Prime Heated Charge, that's what we want to run. We do lose a little bit of status, but the chance to proc Blast goes up, like specifically Blast goes up by quite a bit. My optimism is growing by the minute. This is actually starting to do stuff. I like it. Whoa, what? Hold up, what? Where is this damage coming from? That is actually very good. What? I am speechless. Where did that come from? Now I definitely want to flip the Valence. Like, I wasn't sure if I wanted to invest that much Forma into it, but after seeing it absolutely rip through that Acolyte, I want to see what this can do. One Elementalist coming right up. This will actually give us a nice chunk of reload speed as well. Now, alternatively, you could also go with Fulmination. This is starting to feel real damn smooth, especially versus the Infested. I mean, it's not like the most ridiculous Acolyte damage, right? But it is really solid for the kind of build that it is. Absolutely tremendous stuff. One thing that has been bothering me a little bit is the ammo, so let's put in Pistol Ammo Mutation. Eventually, we might actually run Primed as well. This format doesn't actually change anything. This has really picked up, even with the magnetic still in there, it's actually performing really well. Can't wait to get rid of it though. Don't get me wrong, I do like the new system where you can bank the hard cells and then just buy the weapon wherever you feel like it, but the more of these vices I use, the more I miss the old system where we could just decide which valence bonus we got. I do like the vices, I think they're fantastic, especially since you can then just swap the element at will, but you know what I mean. And there it is. This is the last Forma. We are done. Now we deploy the Vice and switch it over to Electricity, which then allows us to drop Shot and we get baseline Corrosive. Yay! We can also finally run Lethal Torrent for a little bit of much needed fire rate. Now that is what I'm talking about, baby. That little bit of fire rate from Lethal Torrent actually made a huge difference because the base fire rate is actually surprisingly low. Now, an alternative and probably stronger version of this setup would be with gas and electricity, which would require a separate source of armor strip, which is why I like this one instead, because this strips armor on its own. You know what? I think we're done. I think this is as good as it gets. So, here's the final setup for the Coda Pox. We have Hornet Strike for base damage, Galvanized Diffusion for multi-shot, Galvanized Shot for status chance, Prime Target Cracker for crit damage, with our crit chance being taken care of by secondary Enervate. Then we have Pistol Elementalist for status damage and reload speed. Lethal Torrent for multi-shot and fire rate, as well as Primed Heated Charge and Frostbite for blast. Now, the setup was made specifically for an electricity-based Pox, because if you have electricity valence, it combines with the base toxin on the Pox and gives you corrosive, so you get corrosive and blast while only modding for blast. This gives you extra mod space so you can comfortably squeeze everything in. Also, I would recommend at least unranked pistol ammo mutation in the Exiles, because while the ammo reserve is decent enough, it runs out faster than you might think. Then, just like with any other corrosive setup, Emerald Archon shards on your frame are always a good idea because it allows you to strip the enemy armor completely with corrosion alone. Though this is most definitely not necessary, so if you don't have them, don't worry about it, it's fine. And finally, a good priming pet is always beneficial. I like to run Hound, Good Boy Harrow that primes Code, Magnetic, Radiation, Heat, Impact, Vital, and Puncture. If you've never tried a Hound setup like this, I would highly recommend you do so. It's extremely powerful. Just search Harold on my channel. This was a little bit of a slow burner, but I'm glad we stuck with it because it actually ended up being really good. Starts off pretty slow, like genuinely, like the damage it does is low, so it takes a while to take the enemies down, but the more mods you get in there, the more it grows and eventually ends up being a very, very strong AoE weapon. It is a shame that it doesn't really have anything unique to set it apart from the standard Pox. I mean, the way it works is kind of unique because of the cloud and all that, but honestly, the biggest disappointment with a lot of these Coda weapons is that they are just stat bumps. That's it. With that said though, it is still a significant upgrade over the standard Pox. The crit chance is negligible. It is, visually the biggest difference from 1 to 10%, but that doesn't really matter because you will most likely run Enervate anyway, so the base crit chance doesn't matter. So the biggest change here is actually the base damage, the status chance, as well as the crit damage. So would I recommend you give this a shot? Yes, absolutely. If you're looking for a solid AoE secondary, this is not a bad pick. You do have to bear in mind that it's not an explosive secondary though. It's not as immediate as something like the Cold Star, right? You throw it, it creates a cloud does damage. Yeah, so there's a little bit of delay, but other than that, it's pretty good. I very much recommend it. And as always guys, I thank you very much for watching and I hope you've enjoyed the video. Then, I would also like to extend a special thank you to all the channel members. Thank you very much guys, I really appreciate your support, it means a lot to me. Also, if you have any suggestions for future videos, something non-Coda related, feel free to leave them in the comment section down below. And I'll see you next time. Bye bye.